my parents thought it would be good to spell it phonetically instead of traditionally.
Okay.
Oh, no,
I kind of like that. Yeah, I still like that. Is it still not working?
Yeah, it's okay. That's okay.
Okay. So do you have any questions before we get started?
Yes. Is it tiara or tiara?
It's technically both, but tiara is where people usually land.
Okay.
So tiara is good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was so confused about the timing yesterday because on the one of the emails it said United Kingdom.
Okay. I'm sorry.
EST United Kingdom? I thought they were like 9 hours. I was like,
no. Okay, I'll explain it. So I just got back to the States on the 7th.
Oh, okay.
So when we booked it, it was originally in the UK, and I've had like issues like moving everything over to be Eastern Standard Time. So a lot of my clocks still say United Kingdom. So
that makes sense. Okay, I was like, I was reading it with my wife, like the text between us on Instagram. I'm like, why do I feel like this just became a math problem?
Because it is a math problem.
I'm like, let's just take a breath and reread this. I was like, I just want to be there on time.
Yeah, no, you're good. Yeah, it's super confusing, but thank you for being down with it, because I was like, when I book guests, I'm always like, okay, are they gonna know? So
yeah.
One person thought it was like 8 hours ahead at one time, and another person thought it was 12 hours. I'm like, I'm not that far away, but I get it. Okay. So it's Baobi.
Yep.
Okay, so thank you so much for coming on to the show. Before we get started, well, I already started recording. Could you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, of course. I'm Baobi. I'm half Hmong, half African American. I'm a yoga teacher. I'm studying on becoming a yoga therapist, and I decided to do all this after I had back surgery in 2018 due to cauda equina syndrome, which is an incredibly rare neurological disorder, usually caused by injury and sometimes caused by illness. And after rehabilitating myself, because they wouldn't send me to any therapies or anything right away. So I was like, well, I'm not going to just sit in bed for 3 months. So I created a regimen to do in bed to keep my muscles from atrophying. And I decided, you know what, I want to be a yoga teacher, and I want to help other people with neurological conditions or disorders to just have the best life that they can have within their situation, or even like overcoming their situation. I know I have. The doctors told me I may never walk again, and I walk and I run and I practice yoga.
That's incredible. So you said that you're a yoga teacher, but you're becoming a yoga therapist. What's the difference between the two?
They're different trainings. So to be a yoga teacher, you only need 200 hours worth of training. To be a yoga therapist, you need about 1,000.
Ooh, child.
Yeah. So it's like saying like, oh, this is like just like certificate, and this is like a license. So it's a bit different.
Okay.
Even with the yoga therapy, I still don't believe it's a license. I still think it's like another certificate, but it's just a lot more training on anatomy and how to move the body to best help people that have certain disorders or who live in pain all the time. Because sometimes things we do in like a vinyasa class isn't great for someone who consistently has severe back pain.
No. Okay. So now what about neurological benefits of yoga? I have taught a little, I don't know if I told you, I am RYT certified. I have not gotten to 1,000 hours yet, but power to you. I hope to be there. I know I'll be there one day. But I have taught younger people and elderly people, and especially those with arthritis. They respond very well to yoga.
Yeah.
So what are the neurological benefits of yoga for people who encounter that?
Well, a lot of my students have a lot of like neuropathy or neurological pain, so like nerve pain. And so different movements, especially if you've taught an elder generation, like especially in like a chair or something really restorative down on the ground, certain poses can help alleviate that pain. So Yoga definitely helps a lot with alleviating pain. It also helps stretch out like the fascia and the muscles, allowing these areas to work a little bit more. It brings a little more synovial fluid into the joints.
Mm-hmm.
Just different ways of allowing the body to move. Because a lot of times when people have so much pain or they're stuck in a wheelchair all day, they're not moving those parts of their body. So sometimes their yoga practice is the only time they're getting a chance to move those parts of their body. Because I noticed, especially with myself, that if you don't use it, you kind of lose it. Because before the pandemic, I was walking every day. I had a backpack on with a yoga mat and my blocks, like it was heavy. And now, like, and I was just walking all over town to go, to different classes to teach or to practice. And now with the pandemic, like I'm mostly inside all the time. I teach inside all the time. And I'm noticing that like my feet aren't working as well because I'm not using them as much.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to consistently put in that practice, like, okay, well, we're not going outside to take a walk because we're covered in snow and the ice is still kind of like hectic for me to try to balance on.
Okay.
I'm like, I'm not gonna try that.
Yeah.
I'm like, maybe I should get a treadmill.
Oh, I get it. Yeah, I tried to me and my sister, we tried to go running today and I had pain in my feet. I'm like, geez. Because when I was in the UK, 8 months over there, you can't really like lockdown over there is a very different type of thing. So there was not a lot of movement. So this morning I was like, oh my God, my feet. There was pain on the right side, the left side. What's going on? Clearly I need to be more active. And I'm happy that you mentioned that because during the pandemic, our bodies are not moving as much as they're used to. Right. And I thought I was pretty, I was always inside before. I always thought, I don't get out and be active, other than yoga. But during the pandemic, I've been even more in the house, even more. So have your students talked to you about, ways that they can incorporate yoga and not feel, so I guess you can say sedentary. I don't want to call it sedentary because I feel like there's a lot of shame behind that word. Have you dealt with that with your students?
Yeah. Most of my students have caudate equina syndrome like I do. And they're all on different levels of what they're able to do. I have some that are healing that are still very much like, I need to stay in bed right now. Like I just need to listen to my body. And I always encourage them to listen to their body. But this pandemic has kind of hit everyone a little bit differently. I have one student in Australia and the way their lockdown is going, like even if one person gets tested, they lock down the whole area.
Wow.
So she hasn't been able to like leave her house at all. But she's been able to do movement in chairs and she's been able to do movement in her bed. And so I just try to adjust my my recordings of practices for her to best suit her needs. I have another student, he's able to leave his house. He's in Canada. He's able to leave his house to go out for walks. And I'm always encouraging him to go out for walks because he lives right by a trail, right by a school. And I'm like, do it. Like, if you're allowed to do it, go do it. If it feels good, go do it. And now he's like incorporating the gym and he has a trainer at the gym. And I'm just like, just listen to your body. Because I know we all, especially if we all used to play sports. I know I used to. I'm just like, pain is nothing. Like, if it's not, if there's
pain is gain.
Right, exactly. I'm just like, your body is different now. Yes. Listen to your body. If you're just like, it hurts, don't push through it. Listen to your body. So I think right now the biggest thing is like, I'm kind of stuck in my living room. They're kind of stuck in their living room. But if they can get out, I always encourage them to do it, like in a safe way, wear your mask, like. So I guess the biggest part of my job is just encouraging them to do the things that help them feel good, that help them feel active. And that's all I can really do right now. Yeah.
Okay. Now, I want to go back and talk a little bit about your healing. So with your accident, everything that occurred, when did you encounter yoga? Was that encouraged in your therapy or?
No, actually, I ended up not needing therapy because with the yoga I did in bed, when I
handled it yourself.
When I saw the doctor, he was just like, He was shocked. He was shocked because the last time he had saw me, was hooked up to a catheter and I had a walker, and I couldn't even use the walker to walk from the lobby to like the doctor's office. I had to be pushed in a wheelchair. So the next time he saw me, I had no catheter, no walker. Obviously, I set up appointments to take out the catheter, but I was able to do that myself. And he was like, "I don't think you need therapy." Which I'm going to go back and say, like, I think I did need therapy.
Okay.
Because there's things in therapy that you learn that I wouldn't just know from like Googling things or going on YouTube. Like I still can't drive a car because I didn't have that therapy to teach my foot to go back and forth between the gas and the brake. So, but anyway, going back to your question, sorry, I go on tangents.
You're fine.
With my healing, so I was injured in 2017. It was a moving accident. I lifted one of those Tempur-Pedic beds that are really heavy, but not the mattress, but like the baseboard that's really heavy because ours goes up and down. So there's an engine or something. And I lifted it, threw my back out. No, I threw my back out. I was like, you know what? No one else is going to move this stuff into our house. I'm just going to drink a glass of wine and bear with it.
You pushed through it.
I pushed through it, which I'm always just like, don't do that. So I learned that the hard way. But so that was like the beginning of like everything getting worse and worse for my spine because I ended up rupturing 2 discs and 1 disc broke into 40 pieces. And I still didn't have surgery until 8 months later. So I was walking with a cane. I was having like really like I was in a lot of pain for like the 8 months following that accident. And I was like hunched over about 45 degrees. So, and at the time I was 25, I started practicing yoga maybe 3 months into that injury because I was like, well, you know what? Maybe I just need to lose a little weight. That was where my head was at the time. I was like,
that's
maybe
what they always. That's what we're conditioned to believe is that maybe if I just lose weight, it'll be fixed. But I'm listening.
And I'm a plus size curvy woman. Like, I eat. And my genetics.
Yeah, girl.
I'm like, maybe I just need to lose a little weight and it'll take that pressure off of my spine and my spine will go back to normal. Like, I didn't know, you know what I mean? So I put on one like really restorative, like down low on the ground kind of yoga practice, yoga with Adrienne it was. And I think it was specifically for back pain. And she was having us do stuff like Sphinx and like half frog or even like child's pose. And everything hurt. Even Shavasana was unbearable. Everything hurt. So I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to not do this. So I didn't do it. I stopped. And then closer to when I had surgery, I started up again. I was just like, okay, let's just try it again. But this time my mind wasn't to lose weight. This time my mind was, let's see if it helps me get out of pain. So I started practicing. I think and I did as much as I could. And I think I only did like 15-minute, 20-minute videos. That's all I could handle. But I noticed that after each video, I would feel a little bit better. And it was like the only time I had during the day that I could just not deal with anybody else. I could just do something for myself. And with that, in chiropractic, I was pretty good to the point where I could walk around my house without a cane.
Wow. But
then I slipped in my shower and re-injured myself harder and was rushed to the hospital and then needed surgery.
That's incredible. Now, you mentioned you being a curvy woman. Now, on the podcast, I'm very intentional about having people of different, various body types. As we both know, as yoga practitioners, when you Google search yoga,
it's all skinny white women.
They don't look like us. It's all skinny white women. You may have a very thin white man there, but they don't look like us. So how are you navigating that space? How are you as I'm going to ask you as a curvy body, and then I'm going to ask you as a member of BIPOC as well. So let's just start with the body type thing.
At first, it was when I first joined the yogic community, when I had a really strong practice and I was like, you know what, I'm going to start going to yoga classes. I noticed I was the only one that looked like me. Maybe every now and then there would be another like Black man or Black woman or Asian woman, Asian man there, which I was always just like, yes, I want to make like I would make eye contact, but I was still too shy to like go say hi. I was like, look at me, be my friend, you know? So I didn't do anything about it, but I was just like, you know what? I need to get like, and I was always like embarrassed too, because like one, I had to modify everything because I was still very much in my healing practice. And two, I was the only person that looked like me. So I forced myself up in front. And I did that so I didn't have to see anybody else.
It's so crazy.
And like some people say, like you said, it's courageous, but to me, it wasn't courageous. To me, I was just like, I don't have to see anybody else. So I'm just pretending I'm in my living room and she's on the screen. Like she's not there either. So it was just my way of creating my own safe bubble. And so I continued to do that. And I would just modify however, and I don't know. And then it wasn't until I got really into the yoga community online where I started to see more people that look like me, like Diane Bondi. Like, oh my God, she's so gorgeous. And I can't remember the other lady's name, but she's also really well known as well. There's a few.
Jessamine?
Who?
Jessamine Stanley?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, her. Yeah. Sorry, I'm so bad with names. And seeing all these women that look like me, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so great. I'm so glad there's actually like more of a community. And so I started going through my Instagram and I started deleting people or accounts that I was just like, you know what, this makes me feel bad about myself. It's not them, it's just the way I perceive them. And I specifically started looking for more people of color, especially plus size people, to follow, because I'm just like, I can't keep comparing myself to these skinny men and women who are super, super flexible. I'm like, that's not even what my yoga is about.
Yeah.
That's not even what the type of yoga I'm teaching. So I need to find people who are teaching similar styles, or at least people that look like me.
Yeah.
So I was able to find that community mostly online. I haven't really found that community yet here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. But I'm hoping.
Yeah, maybe you can be the one to bring those people together. I'm hoping.
Yeah.
So, now how about as a member of BIPOC, how have you navigated in that way? And have you, well, first, before we get there, I want to ask you, did you feel there were any barriers to you entering the yoga industry as a professional, as a person of color?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I've definitely, before pandemic, teaching at a studio, I've had students walk in, see it's me, and leave, not even check in, not even like ask questions.
Wow.
They're like, because how it worked with newer students was that we would take over like another slot for another teacher if they were deciding that they didn't want to teach it anymore. So they would have regulars come to that class already looking for them. And then they would see it was me, and they would get really upset and they would leave. And so that was always a bit daunting, but I was always just like, well, don't focus on that. Maybe it's not even because, you're a Black woman. Maybe it's just because they wanted another teacher and they were upset that wasn't their regular teacher anymore during their regular spot. But I also think about it too. I'm just like, you know what? Everybody has access to internet. Everybody sees the schedule. Everybody can log in through MindBody. Like, if you didn't know, you know what I mean? Like,
that's on you. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And like our pictures are on MindBody and our pictures are on the website. So I don't know. So it was always just a little daunting when I've had students like jump in and then jump out. But no one's ever said anything to me.
That's good.
Yeah. And the people who do come in, they've been pretty polite, like the ones that check in, like they've been pretty polite. But I did notice it more so, not necessarily as a teacher, but I did notice it more so before I was a teacher and I was just working like the front desk at some places. Some places were really, really, really not diverse. And I would work the front desk and I would just hear things said here and there, like between a teacher and like my boss, or I'd hear things here and there between students and my boss. And it just kind of got to a point where I was like, I need to get out of this space. And I learned really quickly that there are some yoga studios that are meant for me and some yoga studios that it's just not worth being the only one. So, and that's what I noticed too, is that a lot of yoga studios in this area are very, very non-diverse. But we do have one that is Black owned in a predominantly Black neighborhood. Joanna, she's awesome. Her classes are amazing. And they do hip hop vinyasa, which is so much fun. I don't live on that side of town, or else I'd be there more often. And plus the pandemic, things have changed a lot. But I love it. I love that, it's created by Black women for Black women, or just people, Black, Indigenous people of color. So she's doing such a great job. And I have another friend, Ashley. She owns Ashley's Crazy Yoga, and she's trying to make it more diverse as well. She's a beautiful African-American woman, and her and her husband, and she's really young too. She's only 22. Her and her husband bought this space and created this yoga studio, and their place is really diverse as well. I haven't been there yet myself, just because pandemic. I've already had COVID once, and I don't want it again. I'm like, nope. The one time I left my house, I got COVID. I'm not doing it.
Oh, wow. I didn't know you had. Okay.
Yeah, it was terrible. I do not wish that on anyone.
Wow.
So I definitely think there are a few of us out there, Black women especially. I haven't noticed any Black men. I'm just being honest.
No, you're right.
I want there to be more Black men creating safe spaces for everybody. But I'm noticing it's mostly Black and Asian women who are creating these safe spaces for Black, Indigenous people of color. Because even my boss now, she's Vietnamese, and Empower is where I work, and I work online. But a lot of the students are, there's a lot of us that are, it's really diverse. So I'm really happy to see that, especially like in my students. And I don't get to see all of my students because we're all on a screen, but the ones I do see, I'm like, oh yeah, that's so great.
There are. So it took me a while. I have like some men coming onto the show, and it took me a long time to find Black men who were involved in yoga. I think that yoga kind of gets a thing that it's only for the ladies, or only for feminine women, you know what I'm saying, for women. But I think that I prayerfully, and I believe that it's going to change very soon. So on
Instagram, there's Black Boys Ohm. I don't know if you follow.
I've heard of them. Yes.
And like Danny, I think he's one of the owners. So great. They're so great. And I love it too when they post all the men, like the Black men doing their thing. I'm just like, yes, this is the representation we need in our community. Because yoga originally was created for Indian men that were in the army. So I don't understand how all of a sudden it was brought to the Western world and became this like Lululemon type of show.
Capitalism, that's why. But that's why.
Yeah, capital and patriarchy.
Patriarchy. Whenever someone asks me, why do people do this or why this? I'm like, the patriarchy. That's where it always boils out to. They just think I'm a crazy feminist. I'm like, maybe I am. I don't know, but I'm right. So.
There's nothing wrong with that. We all deserve equality.
So, as a queer woman, are you incorporating that into your practice as well, and how you offer that to your students, making a space for them?
I guess I don't during my class, I'm not outwardly this is a gay friendly pose. I guess I don't do anything that, but I guess I'm just very. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm saying I don't see how you would do that if someone does do that. Yeah, I'm
right. I guess I'm just out really open with everything I'm doing and who I am and my sexuality on my Facebook and Instagram page, especially my business pages, because I notice that the people who need me in their life, who need my classes in their life, gravitate towards me. Yeah. And those have been queer people, people of color, plus size people, people with Cauda-Equina syndrome, people with multiple sclerosis, people with diabetes. They found me. And all I did was put myself out there. And I'm just like, you know what? I used to be a really private person. And I'm like, that didn't get me anything. That got me nowhere. And in order to see the representation I want in, social media and in just media, I need to be the representation that I want to see. So it all kind of started when I had to start telling my story about Cauda-Equina syndrome. I could have just very much kept it to myself and just, did my thing on my own. But when I was looking for other people with Cauda-Equina syndrome, I couldn't find anyone. I couldn't find anyone. There was a small hashtag, and I would see people talking about how much pain they were in, but I could never find people who were doing something about it.
And Baobi, do you mind spelling it for me?
My name?
No,
or
the
Kata?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Cauda. That's Kata. Equina, Equuina, and then syndrome.
Okay.
And it means horse's tail. So like the nerves towards the end of your nerve root, they look like a horse's tail. They get cut off. And those are the nerves that are the feeling and movement in your legs, your toes, your genitals, your bowels, your bladder. So all that gets kind of shut off slowly. So where was I? I don't remember what I was talking about.
You were talking about you being honest and
oh yeah. So I just decided, you know what, I need to break out of my shell because I'm not finding the people I need. And so maybe I need to go out there and tell my story and maybe more people will find me. And that's exactly what happened. Once I started telling my story, more people found me. And we all kind of just helped each other and encouraged each other, you know, kind of like AA, or not like AA, but you know how you have like a sponsor. I've never been in AA, but I'm just saying like there's like sponsorship. Like we all just kind of sponsor each other. Like, if I'm having a bad day, I have people I reach out to. If certain people have a bad day, they reach out to me. And it's just
like your yogi brother, sister type.
Yeah, exactly. Or like Kata Equina, brother and sisters. And it's just nice to have that community of empowering people who have your back and you have their back. Because sometimes we have bad days, you know, and I've definitely joined groups where everyone just complains, and that's not what I'm about. I mean, their complaints are valid. You know what I mean? It's just not something I want to constantly be aware of on a daily basis. So I choose to take myself out of certain groups. And luckily I found a group that, you know, we all try to be very positive. Like, of course we're realistic, but we all try to be really like encouraging too.
That's fantastic. Now, you said that you had you've been dealing with, you know, being yourself and being out in the open. Has your practice helped you on that journey to, you know, have your voice?
Oh, definitely.
Yes.
Definitely. Root chakra stuff, definitely. I used to be an incredibly shy person. I still am. I still am a very shy person. Before I do anything, I get like gut nervous. So my yoga practice has helped me a lot. I think one of the biggest things that helped me was forcing myself to go in the front. Even though I was like, I just don't want to see anybody. I know in the back of my head, that's definitely probably helped me like get used to being front and center. Also learning how to teach taught me how to use my voice. And I tell my boss this all the time. I'm just like, thank God for your yoga teacher training, because she made us start teaching the first day. So you were not allowed to just like
sit in the back.
Yeah. No, you were like, okay, you're going to get up, you're going to start teaching. We're going to do groups of 3. Let's do this. I'm like, oh, what? We just learned the poses like 10 minutes ago. You want us to teach it now? You know, so after you get that freak out session out, you know, you have to teach. And then I would just notice like other students being like a lot better, or not better, but more comfortable talking. And I'm like, you know what? I need to start using my voice. It's one thing to use your voice on social media, typing everything. I like to write, but it's a whole other thing being able to talk. And I knew that with everything that I wanted to fight for, everything that I wanted to bring awareness to, I needed to be able to use my voice. And so I practiced every day with my dogs. I would just talk to them because, you know, when you're home by yourself, it's just internal monologue. So I just talked out loud to my dogs. Or when I would go and like cat sit for a neighbor, I would go and talk to their cat and teach them yoga. And that's how I practiced and started using my voice. Also with my yoga practice, I definitely think it's gotten more like, I wouldn't want to say sensual, but it's definitely like, I think I've definitely created a practice for myself where I'm just really comfortable in my own skin. And it took a long time to get there. And, you know, as you practice more, I notice that you do become more comfortable in your own skin and your own body. And, you know, instead of being like, oh, I hate this flab, I hate this fupa, like, you're just like, this is me and I'm beautiful. You know what I mean? Like, this is my skin and I'm beautiful in my skin and I accept myself. And I think once you get to that point where you accept yourself, you know, fully, your flaws, you know, all your stretch marks, all your scars, you just get to a point where you don't care what anybody else thinks about you anymore. Because I don't. I grew up in a very, very uptight, like, Catholic family. Nothing against that. It just taught me to be silent. and I was silent for a very long time. And yoga definitely helped me to use my voice again, or just to use it for the first time. And now I can't shut up.
Yeah, I would not have guessed that you were shy at all. I know for myself, showing up on the mat, it helps me in my confidence and just being who I am so much. Like, I can't stress that enough. You did say that, you want to make sure that I what I hear is that the question, I'm just going to ask a question. I don't know why it's taking me so long to get to the art, but do you feel that your yoga is activism?
Oh, definitely. Mm-hmm. Definitely. I mean, it's empowerment, it's self-empowerment. I think any sort of self-empowerment is activism, because once you feel empowered with yourself, I think you start to reach out and want to empower other people, and who needs the most empowerment? The underdogs. It's not the people on top that need empowerment. Screw those people. I mean, don't screw those people. But you know what I mean?
The podcast is explicit, so if you need to curse, feel free.
Oh, really? Oh, good. Because
say what you want to say.
I have a dirty mouth. I swear like a sailor. I'm keeping it under wraps. That's the one thing, though, about being a yoga teacher is that, like, it's not all your students are okay with that. So you just have to reel it back a lot. But that's why I just created rage restorative yoga.
Oh, tell me more.
Yeah, I created it because first off, I love teaching restorative yoga. It's one of my favorites. I also think it's one of the most healing because you're forced to sit with yourself. You're forced to like sit in the silence and just like do a mantra in your head or affirmation. I feel like it's most mentally healing. Maybe not physically, I don't know, but there's definitely like things where it helps with like blood pressure. It helps with like if you have heart disease, etc. But the rage part will be like the first 15 minutes and we'll just scream and swear. And then we'll have guided rage practices. So like deep breathing exercises and like forceful movements with our arms as we're seated, just to like let out some of that deeper like fire within us.
Yeah.
And then we'll start to slow things down and take it on, onto our mat, onto our bolster, and make it more restorative. Because sometimes letting out all that anger, all that stress, all that trauma, in a healthy, safe environment makes you feel a lot calmer within, so you're able to just settle down. And I've noticed that myself with my own practice. I don't teach anybody anything unless I've tried it out myself a few times. And there will be swearing. There will be swearing guided meditation.
Yeah, I saw that I did see that you started an OnlyFans page, and I have thought about doing like a no bullshit meditation, guided meditation, because I do guided meditations, just like being like, fuck that bitch,
exactly. Breathe in the good air, exhale the bullshit. Exactly. And sometimes that's how people connect. I know one of my students, he and I slowly became friends over time. And then I started getting comfortable to swear in front of him. And I was like, oh my gosh, you swear. Like, he's like, I swear all the time. He's like, I feel so much more comfortable now in front of you. And I'm like, oh, good. So sometimes you never know people's comfort level. So I think it's just always good to start off respectful. And then as you get to know a student or get to know a teacher, and you guys kind of feel each other out, then being able to open up a little bit more. And yes, I did start an OnlyFans page. I would say it's not definitely rated X, but maybe R. There's boobies, but nothing below the belt. And I did that because I wanted to start just really empowering myself in another way. I've really gotten more in touch with my sensuality. And I think that's definitely something growing up that I was really forced to hide, being a curvy Black woman, especially a Black woman. Because I was always told like, oh, doing this is too grown or doing this is too slutty. And so I was always, right. So I was always forced to kind of just put myself in this shell And then after that, I ended up in abusive relationships after abusive relationships. So I just felt like I was always just covering myself up. And there's nothing wrong with modesty. Some people find the most empowerment with modesty, and that is absolutely beautiful. And I find empowerment through certain modesty as well. But I've just gotten to a point in my life where I'm like, you know what? I'm ready to just show everything off. People have already seen my scar. What are some boobs? You know, that's how I look at it. Like, what are some boobs? Like, you can just see boobs on the internet. And I want to raise money to help end, or at least give money towards the fight to end child sex trafficking, child pornography. Like, it's gross to me. Like, places like Pornhub have all these different videos and stuff of like children being sexually abused, sexually exploited. And sometimes the viewer doesn't actually know what they're watching. And sometimes the viewer does, because that's what they're looking for. And it's just coming to a point where I'm like, you know what? Porn needs to be ethical. All forms of porn, all forms of eroticism, sensuality needs to be ethical.
Be ethical.
This is already an industry that already has a big stigma. And it's because so much of it isn't ethical. And that's not fair to the children growing up in these situations. That's not fair to, you know, people trying to get a job afterwards because they were forced into something when they were 17, 16. You know what I mean? And now they're 35 and they're like, I can't get a job anywhere and I'm stuck in the porn industry. And so it's not fair. It's not fair to them. And I really want to end that. Because Epstein was just the tip of the iceberg. Trump was just the tip of the iceberg. The whole game is so much deeper, so much more disgusting than we even talk about or know of. And children, especially children, I mean, everybody, but especially children, should not grow up that way, should not live that way, should not be exploited that way, because then they grow up ending up being really traumatized adults. And I raised my niece her first 4 years of life. And I always think of that. I was just like, oh my gosh, if my niece was in a situation like that, I would kill someone. You know what I mean? Like, if she was forced into some sort of like sex slavery, I would kill someone. I would be that mama bear that just jumped in. I'm like, no, this is not right. So I wanted to bring that same energy without killing people into the erotic industry, because and then the other thing too is there's not a lot of people that look like me. You know, there isn't that representation. So I guess I just want to see representation. So I'm like, well, maybe I just need to be the representation.
Exactly. Similar to with your teaching, it sounds like with you having a voice, you said to yourself, I haven't heard anyone like this. I need to make that voice as well, you know? So I have one last question for you, Baobi.
Yeah.
Of all the things in the world that you could do in your life, why yoga?
It makes me feel good. That's why. I still live with pain every single day, neurological pain. And every day I get up, I do my practice, whether it's in bed, you know, out in my living room, or even if it's just my meditation practice. And it just makes me feel better. It makes me feel grounded. And I know that if it can make me feel this good about myself, especially with all the bullshit I've been through in my entire life that has always tried to box me in, and it's allowed me to find this freedom. I know it can help other people too. And I know it does not make a lot of money, but it's my passion and I love it. And I love helping people. And I love it when my students tell me that they've had pain-free days. I love it when my students tell me that, you know, they cried during a meditation. They were able to release some emotional obstacle that was holding them back. And that, to me, knowing that my students are feeling this sense of freedom, you know, because we all live in our own cage, I think, especially the cage society puts us in. And knowing that we're all finding our own freedoms is incredibly rewarding. To know that and to feel it.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. Would you mind sharing with us where we can find you?
Oh, yes.
Not physically, but.
Oh, well, I'm in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I'm never outside because of the pandemic. But if you see me with my mask on, say hey. You can find me at Baobi Yoga on Instagram and or Facebook. That's Baobi Yoga. I do have classes through Empower Yoga Milwaukee, and I have classes through MKE Yoga Milwaukee. I am doing classes on my own as well, but I did shut that down just for a little bit through Baobi Yoga, just because I was getting a lot of students and I needed to focus on the ones I had, because most of my students are all over the world. They're not necessarily in the United States or near me, so it's a lot of one-on-one work, which just takes a lot of my time. But to find me, you can find me on Instagram or Facebook. I'm also a published author if you want to read erotic short stories.
Okay. Yeah.
Amazon.
Okay.
So that's where you can find me for now. And I guess you can find me on OnlyFans if you want to help support the cause. My name on there is Blasian Witch. So
I love that.
Enjoy. Thank you.
I love it.
I created it one night after like too many glasses of wine. I'm like,
Blasian Witch. All right.
Sure.
All right, bye-bye. I'm going to stop recording.